You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast.
Hello, welcome to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Its purpose is to look into the horror films, dissecting them one screen legend and franchise at a time. Our special podcast subject for this episode is dedicated to Alien Day. Woo! Yeah, man. So we're going to start off with where the franchise itself began, with Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien. But in order to do this, we need a team of horror aficionados who will form the surgical team each episode. And in this particular instance, there is myself, the lead surgeon, Paul Farrell, and I'm the host for the podcast series. My co-host joining me for this episode is our chief surgical technician, Big Cheese, and also sci-fi guru, Anthony Yee.
Hello!
Hey, Ann.
You got the mouthy one today.
Got the mouthy one. Yeah. Woo!
Not the good-looking ones. Ben and Miles.
Ben and Miles. Speaking of which, I think you were telling me just offline.
I cannot believe Ben Skin has not seen this film.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I love the guy.
Yeah.
But
the
amount of horror films he doesn't see, I mean, come on, Paul, you got to cut him loose.
Yeah.
What the hell?
So, I know, I can't believe it. I mean, get your act together, Ben.
Yeah, dude. Big kitty.
Oh, dear.
Ben head.
He's gonna hate you. So for those people that are new to the Surgeons of Horror podcast scene, the idea is that we will tackle sometimes it's a director, but in often case it's a franchise, and we have the luxury of talking about Alien, as we said at the head of the intro. And the idea is that we kind of grab the plot line, dissect it, kind of talk around it, riff off some bits that were of interest. So, and before we delve into that, can you tell us where you were or how it all began for you when you discovered Alien?
Okay, firstly, apologising for the food. I'm eating food again. We do this during our lunch break.
Yes.
I don't know why. It's what Paul is actually obliged to pay us.
Yeah,
feed us.
Yeah,
but by doing a lunch break, during our lunch break,
yeah, it's two birds, one stone. Yeah.
So
it's all good.
He's the businessman.
And then we work for ASIO as well, so it's.
We do work for ASIO. We don't work for ASIO.
No, we don't work for ASIO. I'll edit it out. It'll be right.
It's all a bit accurate. Okay, Aliens. Okay.
Alien, yeah.
As I've established this before, the difference between your childhood and mine.
Yes.
Your parents allowed you to watch horror films when you were 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. You turned out fine.
I'm all right.
I was so the opposite. If it was scary...
You turned out fucked.
Fucked. That's why I went for ASIO.
Yeah.
Or not. But for me, horror films was the big no-go area for me as a kid. I love Star Wars. Didn't equate to a guy getting his arm cut off in a bar as being horror. But, yeah, horror, I was just like, just steer clear of it. No. And so the big gory film I tried to avoid because it was gory was Rambo. And the big scary film tried to avoid was Exorcist.
Yeah.
And the big scary sci-fi film to avoid was Alien. So I didn't watch it for ages, even though it was about not even 10 when it came out. And so I think it got to the point where we played on Australian television late at night. Still tried to avoid it. What turned my life around was in 1986. I saw Aliens.
Ooh,
for the first time ever.
Oh, so you saw Aliens before Alien? Okay.
And I loved. My cousin saw it and raved about it.
Yeah.
Said you got to see this film. He took me to see it. My older cousin David. Here you go.
Hey.
Beverly Hills Cinema.
Oh yeah.
Loved it. Fucking loved it.
Yeah.
It was in the old airport cinema. And like I'll go and see what the first film was all about. And that's when I got the first one on VHS.
Okay. Cool.
And that's how it entered my life. And it was one of those things because all my school friends saw it. And all the things I had said had clicked into place about certain things, about jokes about a cat. I didn't get that. Don't go with the cat. And Sigourney Weaver in panties. So what else do you need?
In this film. In Alien. Yeah. All right, done. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, everybody. So yeah, that was Alien for me. So that was my first foray into it. I watched it on TV.
Yeah, right.
And I think my dad watched it same time as similar too.
Yes.
And he saw them both close together, and he liked Alien better than Aliens.
Yeah.
Written in 2 different films from mine, but they're brilliant. They're a brilliant sequel and prequel.
Yes.
What's your first encounter?
So I struggle to recall. It just seems so embedded in.
It's one of those films that are there.
Yeah, that's right. I can't recall when I first saw it. My hunch is that it would have been with my cousins. because I remember sitting down watching. I used to watch a lot of that kind of stuff with my cousins, but I distinctly remember watching RoboCop for the first time with him, and I distinctly remember watching Predator
That's
for the first time.
Film, RoboCop.
Yeah. We used to do on the RoboCop bit. You know where the guy that ended up in ER, not in the film but in the show ER.
The ginger guy.
The ginger guy.
Yeah.
We used to do the whole "It's me, it's me." So that was our fun highlight of RoboCop. But yeah, look. So it makes sense that I probably would have watched it during one of those sit-down sessions. You know, when
did you love it straight off the bat, or you're like, or?
I don't. It's weird. It's just I don't recall. Like for me, this is like the most horror of the franchise films. In the leaning. So like it makes sense that I would have really liked it, and when I've watched it countless times since, and you know, it's up there with one of my favorites.
It's a seminal film. It's gotten better with age.
Yeah, it really has.
Very tough for sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it has.
Yes.
It really has. And it's the one. God, fuck. Life is, from this point of view, the movie with Ryan Reynolds just came out. First thing that the critics said, it's Alien.
Yeah.
In space, which was Alien. Alien on the ISS. But yeah, I mean, there's so many films of just you trace it back to that.
Yeah, and I actually like, because obviously, as is common practice when we sit down and talk about these films, I often re-watch the movies to get it fresh in my mind. And I remember as I was watching it again recently that I was sitting there thinking, of the sci-fi horror genre, I still don't think anyone has ever matched it.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
There's no, you can't. There's obviously ones that are up there, but in contrast to Alien, I honestly don't think anyone has ever come close to.
So many people.
There's lots of rip-offs or kind of nods to, or that have been used throughout the years, but.
It gets a lot of things right.
Sci-fi. Can you name a standalone sci-fi horror?
No. Not a thing on a spaceship. Only because as soon as you see a spaceship, you see a crew who.
Jason X.
The woman,
Sorry.
the female robot with no nipples. But yeah, that's it. Every crew in space has to be blue-collar workers in space. As soon as you go there, that's Alien.
Yeah.
Because they're the first to kind of really do that.
Yes.
And that was a conscious decision too.
Yeah.
In the pre-production design, they could have gone either way. They could have gone Space Odyssey or boom. Anything with an alien in the spaceship, running around. As soon as you get to we have X amount of people at the beginning of the film. Who's going to survive by the end of it? That's Alien. Yeah. Exactly. And it just there's no in hindsight, it's just amazing that stuff has held up.
Yeah.
I don't think. Ridley Scott. I don't think a lot of it is. Some of it is I can attribute to Ridley Scott consciously making decisions. But other things is serendipity for me. Just things worked.
Okay. Yes.
And because the more films he makes, the more I think, geez, he got lucky. No, only kidding. He's a masterful filmmaker. But being a masterful filmmaker doesn't mean you're going to make a great film, as we've seen throughout this entire series of podcasts. We've talked about. So far, we've released, for those that are coming to us on iTunes, we've been talking about the Wes Craven stuff is out there for you guys to listen to. But we've got a bank of stuff that we've got on our website, which will slowly kind of add to the iTunes list. But so Wes Craven and John Carpenter are ones that we've talked about. And both of them, we have made awesome movies. But there's been some interesting ones along the way. Steven Spielberg makes clunkers. It doesn't guarantee. But at the same time, they both have this fearlessness. If you ever listen to Ridley Scott's commentary on anything he does,
hell yeah,
he has no fear, and you got to really expect that.
Yeah,
I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Anyway, but Alien.
That's our little preamble for the beginning of the discussion. So let's take a look at how the Alien film unfolds. So I mean, the first thing we kind of get is the whole kind of big craft in space, a la Star Wars. With a scrolling kind of shot of what we find out is a commercial towing vehicle called the Nostromo.
Nostromo. The ship itself is very small.
Yeah.
The refinery it tugs is very huge.
Yes.
And it's a refinery in space.
Exactly.
Yes. Which was the inspiration to... A refinery was the inspiration to the mothership in Close Encounters.
Oh, right.
Yeah, he literally drove past the refinery and he sort of took that and flipped it upside down. That's the mothership.
Wow, cool. I like
Very late in the process too, apparently. Anyway,
nicely done. So, so we are also told that on board the Nostromo is the 7 crew members, and that there is the cargo is a refinery processing of 20 million tons of mineral ore, and they're on course returning to Earth.
Yep.
So they've already done what they need to do.
They're coming home.
They're coming home. And then we get to one of my favourite bits of this movie is the opening.
Oh, yeah.
Of all these long corridors, empty spaces.
It's an empty house. It's a haunted house. It's really great.
It's awesome, and it so kind of sets up.
And again, the first version of that I saw was James Cameron's Aliens.
Yes.
With the Sulaco, the military ship. He did the same thing. He does long shots of the corridors.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, this is really cool. I've never seen it. And then I realised, oh no, he's just ripping off Ridley Scott. When I saw it afterwards, he kind of did it more magical.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, cool.
Which is really really cool. Then we get that kind of this computer switching on. There's lots of these helmets that are across. When I first watched that, I actually thought that was somebody sitting.
Me
there.
too. Yeah.
And then obviously it's not. It's a
but the
computer,
interesting thing about that cockpit, that bridge is still cool. It's very analog and and the sound it makes is very analog.
Yes.
Back in the time when nobody knew what the hell analog or digital was.
Yes.
But it's still, if you were a kid, I'd like to fly the spaceship because it's still really cool.
Yeah.
The design of it is great.
Yes.
And it comes alive.
Comes on and then off again.
It comes on and off
again.
I
think
you've nothing to say about that, have you, Paul?
I haven't got anything to say about it, but I think you would like to add something.
When it comes alive, firstly, apparently he was notorious too with his Scott for recycling graphics and sound effects. Particularly graphics. Because one of the graphics, when the ship lands or takes off, it says Purge.
Yes.
On one of the monitors, and that's used in Blade Runner, which I saw Blade Runner for the first time. I realised, it's the same effect. And because of that, people are making the correlation that Blade Runner is in the same universe.
Same universe. Right, gotcha. Yeah.
And is in the same universe as another movie with robots and shit. I can't remember now. But when the machine wakes up, it farts.
No, it doesn't.
This is the sound it makes.
Come on.
This is the sound it makes. How can you say that is not a fart?
Surely it's just a balloon being let down, no? No?
The computer's been asleep for how many years? It's like, oh, thank fuck! And just goes, but then, all right, then wake up the crew.
As we all do when we get up in the morning. You know?
Computer
have a big stretch.
Hey, you. All right, no, we're going to do. And that's what happens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
At which point we then find ourselves.
How do you prove that? That sounds like a computer. It farts. It was whatever. Okay. Sorry.
He can approve what he likes.
Uh-huh.
Well, I don't know if he could have at that stage.
It's Ridley Scott, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Ridley Scott. Yeah.
Was this before or after Blade Runner? Before, wasn't it?
It's before, yeah, because this is 79. Blade Runner came in 82.
Okay.
I'm making that stat up, but I won't say
What was
82.
before this? Oh, we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know. I'll look it up while we're I'll let you go on a rap.
I would imagine he said, "Can you put a fart noise in there?" Because I'm really fucking Scott.
Do you know what though? In all jokes aside, I kind of like the idea that it is the whole kind of computer waking up and it farts. I think there's some kind of logic behind that.
And there's an extra sound effect when it sharts itself. And he goes, "Uh-oh."
Oh,
no.
Give me a minute.
No.
Got to change my data where. So
the podcast goes so far. I talked about farting for 2 hours.
That's all you want. That's all you need.
Yeah.
So then we get to we find ourselves in the cryostasis chamber.
Yep. Hypersleep, they call it.
Hypersleep.
Yeah.
There we go. So and the crew are kind of dotted around in a bit of a hexagonal kind of shape. Heads
there's a
facing
central column, and
yeah.
they're around it, but it has to be septagonal. I'm guessing there's 7 of them.
Yes.
But it looks pentagonal.
It looks pentagonal.
From one side, because the sound comes in from one side.
Yeah, yeah.
But again, seminal stuff. Backstreet Boys are back.
Yeah.
Larger Than Life by Backstreet Boys, video clip.
Yes.
They chose, because there's 5 of them, 5 separate films to inspire, because it was set in space.
Oh, yeah.
And one of them wakes up in a hypersleep chamber that looks eerily like.
Oh wow.
This film. So again, it's just influential.
Yeah. Transcends
Otherwise.
even to Backstreet Boys.
Backstreet Boys.
Hell.
Which we'll cut to right now for a few seconds. And we're back.
Hey. So interestingly, the first person human we see wake up is Kane,
Yes.
played by John Hurt.
The late John Hurt.
The late John Hurt.
The
War Doctor.
War Doctor.
Yeah.
Late John Hurt. Very method actor he was, apparently.
I love him. He's like, you
Was a
know,
method actor too.
I'm highly inspired by a lot of his stuff. Like even like in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, which I know you weren't a fan of. I loved his work in that too. But
It's an interesting choice, that because it stays on him.
yes,
He's the only one that wakes up,
yeah,
and it's a montage where they dissolve from him waking up, sitting upright,
Yes.
swinging his legs out, and that's the shot. And
Yeah.
the others are kind of still asleep.
yeah,
What a conscious choice to make. Why
Yeah.
not have them all wake up? Because automatically you go, is he the only one waking up? What's going on? Why
Yes.
is he waking up first?
yeah.
And Ridley Scott doesn't give a shit. He's
Nah.
like, figure it out. Which I love. I
Yeah,
really
yeah,
love.
it's cool. There's like, I mean, you could look at it because, okay, spoilers. He's the first one that goes.
Oh, right, yeah.
So you know, we are. It's a nod to the whole. Well, this is.
So if
We're going to introduce him, and
you and I are in a spaceship and you wake up first, you go, oh, fuck.
Uh,
No, still sleep, still sleep.
I'll poke you with a stick and then pretend I'm sleeping.
No, I'm still sleep. Oh, thank you.
And then I'll do a fart.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool. I mean, because in Aliens, they all wake up simultaneously.
yeah, and then they're all fucked.
And they are.
So,
Yeah.
but I don't know whether that's okay. That could be just it's an interpretation. Is that the reason why?
Well, he's fascinated by the process.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott, because in Prometheus,
Yes,
they dream.
yes,
Because since then, they had a sort of thing about, well, you got to keep your mind active. So apparently, Prometheus, which is set before Alien,
yeah,
to get your mind active, you download memories,
yes,
and those memories get recycled in your brain to stop your brain from atrophy.
yeah,
So I think he finds it. It is a fascinating thing, like to sleep for decades and wake up.
yeah.
Not everybody.
So, like, my other theory is that the whole thing is Kane's dream.
oh, right.
I just randomly made that up.
And so at the end of it, he wakes up and he goes, I sharted. Bad dream? Kinda. Yeah.
Kinda.
Yeah.
I mean, it raises a good point. What if all? I mean, like, you know, you can argue that. Well, we'll open up the Alien franchise canon a second in its entirety, but you know, there's been a lot of scathing reviews of 3 and 4
Yeah.
out there, particularly because of its neglectfully handling Newt and
Hicks.
Michael Bean, thank you, Hicks's character.
Yep.
That, you know, and the recent kind of resurgence of the dude that directed District 9's Proposal, which is
Long Fine.
out there somewhere, and
yes.
like a fanboy kind of
Yeah. I've read a
stuff
few
picks
pages
up
of
on
that.
it, and
Yeah.
you know, it supposedly picks up before or Alien 3. It's almost like it's ignoring Alien 3.
Yeah. A bit like how Superman Returns ignored Superman 3 and 4.
But you could do a whole yes, exactly. You could do let's all ignore Superman
3 and 4.
but you could do a whole you know, and it's a massive cop out, but the whole, you know, that was a whole dream sequence, because who knows what goes on when you're in stasis.
If I could, I'd delete the War Doctor from Doctor Who's canon.
Really?
I love nothing personal against him. I just don't like the concept of him.
Because he doesn't go apeshit or
No,
anything.
he needs to be a fighter. He needs to be a warrior.
Yeah,
And he's an old man.
he is an old man. Old man.
And even as a young man, he didn't look like a fighter.
No, true. All right.
You haven't woken up yet. Okay. Might want to power through the next bit. Sorry.
That's all right. So, so then we kind of had the crew, and they're all sat around eating. So we get a bit of kind of banter, dialogue stuff going on between the
Blue
crew.
collar stuff.
Yep.
Again, I love this. Superman does it well. Richard Donner does it well. Just people talking.
Yes.
Let the camera go
Yes.
and they talk over each other, and you do get what the hell's going on without not confusing. I just love it. It's natural.
And like, I guess, like, so if we run through the crew, see if I can remember them right now. So we've been introduced to, obviously, as I said, John Hurt, who plays Kane. The captain of the ship is Dallas.
By Viper from Top Gun.
Yeah, I know. My mind's just gone blank as well. I was going to say he's the dude that's in Poison Ivy and. Anyway.
Of all the movies, this impressive canon of a guy whose name you can't remember.
And he was in Space Camp.
You remember and Leah Thompson. Why are you remembering their names?
had Joaquin Phoenix in it.
Jesus
when he was
Christ.
called Leaf Phoenix.
Yeah.
Tom Skerritt.
Boom, Viper.
Right
Tom
there.
Skerritt. Hold on.
See, I knew all along.
A fat Tom Skerritt. Because he got really skinny after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he's Dallas,
He's Dallas.
the leader. Kane is the 2IC.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And we're told and later in the script that the third in charge is Ellen Ripley, played by Sigourney Weaver, who at this point in the film we don't know is going to become our
Leader.
heroine, our lead protagonist.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that and comment on that when it happens. Because there is a lot of male chauvinistic stuff that happens during the lead up to that too.
Yeah, okay, what happens?
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to it. So, but also, so that's 3. So then we've also got Ash, played by Ian Holm.
Yeah.
And we won't mention his background just yet. And then there is also
He's a science officer.
Huh?
He's a science officer.
He's the science officer, yes, sorry, thank you. Then we have Veronica Cartwright. who's
Lambert. She's the navigator.
That's right. And then we get the 2 kind of technicians, engineers, led by Yaphet Kotto, who plays
Parker,
thank you. And then Harry Dean Stanton plays Brett. And sort of the comic relief
Yeah.
in this.
As you would say. Right.
Yeah, and they are often trying to get more money out of...
They get half a share.
So that's why...
Quite pains to point out they get half a share compared to which is a bit shit, since they do a lot of the manual labour.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's 7 of them. There you go.
So they're the 7. So they're sitting around having a banter. So then Dallas goes into a private room to communicate with Mother.
The central computer.
The central computer, that's right, where they get all their info from presumably Earth. It's never said.
Yep.
But we'll presume.
But again, it's just how people thought computers worked back then. Back then, computers were thousands of dollars, and they had megabytes of information. Whereas these days, it's like, why does he have to go into a room to talk to the computer that has 300 locks or something? It's really weird.
Porn.
And then he that's don't look at my browser history. And then they type in the questions.
Yeah, I know.
But the keyboard's made up of symbols, not letters.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's
just anyway, weird.
Weird-a-rama.
So he gets his instructions. Dallas gets his instructions from Mother.
He does. And we kind of also find out that the crew discovered that they've woken up early and they're starting to piece, while Dallas is in the room, starting to piece that they've been woken up early and they're not in a star system that they recognise.
That's right.
They received a signal and are told to investigate.
That's right. So the interesting thing about this particular scene is that the set, the bridge, they all have their separate chairs and areas. Apparently, activating a certain part of your console activated the lights on somebody else's console. And if I turn on my console, which switches lights on your console, you can't work until I do it. And apparently, during rehearsal, they developed this routine where one guy presses a light, which switches 2 lights for somebody else, and they press on the light. And so they worked as a crew to be in sync. And there's an actual scene where Ian Holmes sits in his chair and a light switches on. He says, "Thank you." Because somebody switched on that light for him, one of the other crew members.
Right.
And it was just a routine, just the way the panels worked. But then the crew used it as their routine.
Love it.
Yeah, that's really cool.
That's a really cool insight. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah.
We then the crew end up landing on this planet where the signal is transferring.
Which we don't know that yet. It's an abandoned world. Yeah. Do they have the beacon? There's a beacon.
There was a beacon.
There's the beacon, which they think is a distress call.
Yes, exactly. But when they land, they have a hull breach.
Yes, they don't land very well.
No, screws them up. And Parker and Brett say it'll take some time to fix it. Ripley says she'll go down and investigate with them.
That's right. Is this where the sexism comes in?
Yeah, a little bit.
Is that where they say they complain about their shares at this point, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. And there's a bit of banter between them and her.
Yeah.
And there's a bit. What I say about sexism is that it's clear that they don't really respect her authority.
Yeah, right.
A little bit, and that crops up a little bit as well throughout the lead up to other events that occur,
right?
Which we'll get to as well.
But she does turn around and says, "You can fuck off." But back then, saying "fuck" was such a rude thing to say, and so she makes a big emphasis on "fuck off."
Fuck off.
Whereas in real life, you'd say "fuck you," and.
But then that also that particular line also kind of strengthens almost like she's almost complying to the fact that they don't respect her authority a bit because she's trying to be one of them as well.
Yeah,
There's a bit of a
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is kind of like forced into behave in a certain way with certain
Yeah.
individuals
Just
in
going to
order
try and
to
talk to them there.
exactly
Yeah.
which comes across. So essentially, so we find out the signals or the beacons being transmitted somewhere on the planet. So Dallas, Kane, and a reluctant Lambert head out to investigate on foot.
The sound design in this section is amazing. Just the wind and the howling.
Oh, yeah.
It's just full on. And it's just relentless. It's so great.
It's a good point there too, because not the sound in this is phenomenal. Like not just the orchestration, but also the effects and stuff within this. And I think that again, like I come from sound design background, so for me, I think that goes in its way to lend weight to why this film stands the test of time.
Yeah, okay.
As a huge factor, because it, like, even now, like the sound effects and the score.
It's so sparse and barren, and there's lots of breathing, and that's the big thing with stuff that breathes. You love that.
I love it.
I tend to get bored with that, but this, it so fucking works, because he just sets up the world.
Yeah.
So eerie, so beautiful.
Yeah.
They trudge and they find...
A tomato.
Yeah, well, might as well like a tomato. It's a horseshoe. It's a horseshoe.
It's a horseshoe.
It's a weird... Again, I love this. The inside of, like, it's an alien spaceship, so it shouldn't have a front and back like we would have a spaceship.
Yeah.
It can look like fucking anything.
I really like that because it was so unusual for a spacecraft.
Yeah.
From what I mean,
what do you think the spacecraft is? Because a spacecraft, spacecrafts we make as a species are roughly arrow-shaped because we have air, and to move along air, you need wings that are roughly shaped like an arrow. Yeah. So that'll affect our design. But this thing looks like a half-eaten bagel, which when I first saw it, I thought, how did they know it was a spaceship? Is it just not a weird building?
Yeah.
But it's not. So, and there's a breach in the hull. There's a hole in the side of it, isn't it? That's how they go through.
I thought they just crawled through like an old air vent or something. No. But maybe it is a breach.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, but before we get to that, I should just say that Ash, during this time, is observing their movements.
Yes, he is.
As they.
That's a really cool sort of chair and observation.
Yeah.
Again, the design is great. It's a really cool chair.
It's awesome. Yeah. And also, I put Jones exclamation mark.
Jonesy. The cat.
The cat.
A ginger cat.
Ginger cat.
There's a line in 2010 written by Arthur C. Clarke.
Yeah.
Where the 2010 the ship from 2001 is in decaying orbit. They send a Russian ship to get into it to arrest it from being destroyed. Yeah. And they board the ship, and the two who board the ship, Russian and American. The American played by John Lithgow, and he has a line in the novel where he says, "What do we do? Don't go after the cat," because they had just seen Alien the night before as a movie, and that was Arthur C. Clarke because he was a big fan of the film. Yeah, right. And Harry Dean Stanley, he threw that line in there. So
nice.
Alan Dean Foster.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what. Again, that's the first. When I read that, I'm like, what does that mean? Because I didn't see the movie, so I saw 2010 before Alien, and then figured it out afterwards.
There you go. Jonesy
the fucking cat
lives on in infamy.
Yeah.
So the three that have gone down, they discover the crashed spaceship that you said, and that I put in here as well. There's a bit of a found footage feeling as they, from the POVs of the camera and stuff that's going on in that, which was kind of a bit of a jerky kind of movement stuff going on that's kind of added to the reality of what they were attempting to do.
They didn't have the. Wait, did you hear that?
Yeah.
Didn't have that moment.
And they didn't drop the camera and run.
Yeah.
That didn't happen.
The fucking camera. Yes.
But we come to what looks like a room, and there's a dead creature of some kind in the sea.
Yeah, this is amazing. They call it the space jockey.
Yeah.
And it's an astronaut that piloted that ship.
Yes.
Again, I didn't figure that out as a kid.
No.
Because there's a great big fucking hole in his chest.
Yes.
And that's what it is. Is that what has happened to them is about to happen to this crew.
Exactly.
The alien which you're about to meet is not indigenous to the ship.
No.
The other side note as to why they made the astronauts when they're walking into the room with the jockey in wide shot, they're kids in spacesuits.
Yeah,
the kids are Ridley Scott and the designer, the DOP, because it makes the room look even bigger.
Yes.
And it's an effect that J.J. Abrams used in the first Star Trek film.
So there you go.
Just to make the room look bigger. That's a very clever thing. These kids.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very simple. And I remember trying to get my head around the space jockey guy when I first saw it because I was just a bit kind of confused as to
what's going on.
Was. And,
But that's what it is. But the hole in the chest is a big giveaway.
Yeah, and they do focus on that too. They do mention that it looks like his chest has burst outwards, exploded outwards. And then they get to a point where Kane discovers a cavern of some kind, going down into the hull of the ship. And he decides to descend into it, as you do.
He's kind of a go-getter, Kane.
He's a what?
He's a bit of a go-getter.
Yes, he is.
He's kind of in search of his own identity, you kind of guess.
Yeah.
Because, he just seemed, even when, the classic, this is a bit dangerous, he's like, what's the worst that can happen? Fall down the hole, which he does.
Yeah, he falls over. But then while he's down here, he discovers some eggs.
Yes.
And we're not talking the chocolate variety.
No, because it wasn't Easter.
No.
And he said they had this. That's one of the first songs where I sing this Pink Floyd laser light.
Yes.
Which he calls a blue mist. It's actually even back then you can tell it's a laser light.
Yeah, yeah.
But because you run smoke through it, it looks really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And again, it's the first time I saw this in terms of Alien was when in Aliens.
Yes.
Is when they pick up Sigourney Weaver's ship and this big probe comes in with this really awesome blue light.
Yeah, that's right.
And again, fucking Ridley Scott did it first. So again, I was really super impressed, and it's a great effect visually. It is so cool.
Yeah.
And then he finds his eggs.
He finds these eggs. That's right. So then he decides to take a closer look at one of his eggs, and he sees movement from within. It opens up, and he peers inside when something leaps out at him.
Onto his helmet.
Snap. Cut.
On his face. So, again, amazing. So they shot the eggs upside down, and then right way up, it looks like water's dripping upwards. So it just looks
that was awesome, that bit.
And Ridley Scott's really known for doing that. Because, everything he does visually, if it looks fucking cool, you'll invariably get an engineer, usually like a DOP or cinematographer art director, who think like engineers going, why is it doing that?
Yeah.
And his answer is because it looks fucking cool.
Yeah.
And the best example is Blade Runner, is when Harrison Ford meets Sean Young for the first time.
Yes.
In that really beautiful room that's like a pyramid.
Yes.
And then there's water reflections on the walls. And he told the DOP, I want water reflections on the wall. The DOP said, where's the water coming from? A DOP needs to know where the light source is coming from.
Yeah.
He said, I don't fucking care. It just looks cool. And it does. It looks really cool. And you don't question. You just assume there must be a pool of water somewhere.
Yeah.
It looks amazing. And I think that's the sort of thing he just said, that looks cool, let's do that.
Yeah.
And it works, because it's alien. It's why is water dripping upwards.
That's right.
And when the thing opens, it looks so fucking organic.
Yes.
Because it was sheepskin bladder or some shit like that.
Yeah. There's a bit, isn't it, just before it opens too, which I forgot to mention, that he looks in and you can see, it's almost transparent, you can kind of see the movement going...
Membranes and, exactly.
From inside of it. But,
so this thing attaches itself to his face.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Face, it's awesome, yes. But again, back then you assume, if you didn't know, well, he's fine, the helmet should sort of hold him.
Yeah, that's right. And so these things have been, correct me if I'm wrong, have now been known as face huggers.
Yes, they are face huggers.
So we will call them that from here on in,
sure.
for it was their name. Mm-hmm. Cool. So the next bit is we then kind of have Lambert and Dallas coming back with Kane to the ship, and Ripley questions their re-entry into the ship due to quarantine restrictions.
Yes.
But she's overruled by Ash, the science officer.
Now that's interesting.
That is interesting. And when you first look at it, you could look at this again as male chauvinistic kind of attitude again.
And it did come across also that she was being a hard-ass bitch because they have a crew member clearly in distress.
But I kind of agree with her.
Oh, no, she was absolutely right. And in hindsight, 100% right.
Yeah, exactly.
No, she's right.
And she makes a point of saying that too.
She's completely right. At the time, though, the human drama role, because you've been with them, you've seen the distress he's under.
That's right.
And Lambert had a huge problem with it because she fucking right crosses her later on in the film, which is in the director's cut, wasn't the original cut.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, it's great because she's right. It's the classic, Joss Whedon's definition of good writing. Give the bad guy a good reason, he's a better bad guy. Give the bad guy the right reason, he's even better. And she had the right reason to be a complete bitch.
Yeah.
And she was ignored because in the moment of humanity, she had to let him in.
Yeah. That's right.
So it's really good. So yes, again, Ash overrides it, makes him look like a good guy.
Makes him look like a good
hindsight, not so much.
He's a good guy. What are you talking about?
So all that. So it's good drama.
Yeah.
So cool.
So then they basically wheel Kane into kind of like an observation room. They you see the helmet
has been cracked.
Open. There's something fully embedded into it. So they manage to remove the helmet, and they find this thing wrapped around his face.
Yeah, it's insane. And the sweat in his skin, it's so visceral.
Yeah, and he's at
sweat in these Adam's apples. Yeah, it's just something your eyes drawn to it. It's just so real.
Yeah.
And they're going, oh, okay.
It's a pretty interesting moment, and even more so as Ash tries to remove it, the creature tightens his grip around the throat too to kind of really, and it really feels animalistic.
Completely. It's very,
very, very cool.
The
design.
classic thing of CGI versus physical, practical. This is a great example of practical effect.
So is this H.R. Geiger as well?
Yeah,
he created the facehugger.
The look of it is all
the xenomorph that comes out.
Science behind it was a combination of people.
Yeah.
Not least of which is a guy called Ron Cobb, who I've met, but we'll talk about that later.
Nice. So Ash, so then they scan the body. They put it in this kind of thing, and they discover that the creature appears to be feeding him oxygen.
Yes.
So, like there's something wedged well and truly down his throat.
Yes. So as far as I know, it's keeping him alive.
Yes.
I don't know why.
Yes.
I figured if they take it off, it'll probably kill him.
Yes, that's right. They do, though, try to take a sample from the creature.
That's right.
And discover that they discover in doing so the ultimate defense mechanism in that it has acid for blood.
Yes, which burns through the ships, through like 2-3 floors.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
Which another awesome little kind
great little insight.
Yeah.
Belonging to Ron Cobb, apparently.
Which you'll tell me about later.
But yeah, it is a great thing because straight away you can't fucking shoot this thing, which was always the thing that always occurs to you in a situation like that. Fucking shoot it.
Yeah, that's it.
Brilliant.
We have this moment as well, just following that, where Ripley actually challenges Ash about ignoring the quarantine regulations.
That's right.
So conflict and banter happening here.
And at this point where Lambert hit her as well. In the
director's cut.
Yeah.
She says, "Shut up, bitch."
Yeah, she just gives... and apparently she really smacked her.
Oh, wow.
Again, the classic Ridley Scott technique of just let her fucking have it, which it's not exclusive to him. But yeah, and then so the take you see is Sigourney Weaver shot for a good second.
Yeah.
She was supposed to connect, and she did.
Wow.
Yeah, so there you go.
Cool. And the next scene, we find out that the face hugger appears to have left Kane.
It's fallen off and disappeared.
Dallas, Ash, and Ripley try to look for it, and then they discover that it's no longer alive.
Yes, it falls on Sigourney Weaver.
Yeah.
So it got into the roof rafters, dies.
Which most spiders do.
Yeah, after they do their bizzo.
Yeah. Have a whiz. And then
they do that. Well, yeah, they do. So there you go.
Well, it's very spider-like in the way it moves, which
yes.
we get more of it in Aliens.
Yes.
Than we do in this. But where was I going with that? So that's when they kind of take a bit of a closer look at it. It's got that defense mechanism, or reflex. Sorry,
yeah. It looks so real, like it's ship's bladder, and
it's nice.
It looks like a vagina.
It does look a bit like a vagina,
but it's a reflex action instead. But
yep,
poke and prod it.
Ripley also has a quiet word with Dallas, saying that she doesn't trust Ash.
Yes,
seeds are starting to be sown. At this point, the crew leave the planet.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? We go?
Yeah, let's go.
There's a deleted scene.
Go on.
Where Sigourney, this is the Belson test we call it. Where women, if a woman doesn't talk about a man with another woman, pass the test because most films are about that.
Yeah.
And she has that scene where she talks to Lambert and she says, "What do you know about Ash? Have you ever had sex with him?"
Yeah.
And it was and it's in the book. I read the novel about this, and I think it's really cool because the implication being, if you're going to be in space, it's okay to fuck each other.
Yeah.
Because you got to relieve the tension of the norm somehow. And so the social norms of that are broken down. It's just sex.
Yeah.
And they talk about how Ash doesn't seem interested.
Yes.
Whereas it's implied very much that Sigourney Weaver and Dallas have an intimate relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really, really
which changes that dynamic a little bit.
Yeah.
When you know that.
Yeah.
So I read about that too. Yeah. But what was I going to say to that? So was the novel written first, or did the screenplay come about? So the screenplay is written by Dan O'Bannon.
Yeah, the novel was Alan Dean Foster, so I think it came after.
Okay.
But I think, as in most times, they go off the screenplay, not the edit.
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Good, a great example of that was the novel To the Abyss.
Yes.
We've talked about it in another podcast, but the writer of that was given direct access by James Cameron to be on set.
Yes.
Because James Cameron wanted the novel to be not a novelisation. And then he encouraged the writer to come up with his own ideas.
Yeah.
So the first 3 chapters are prequels of the 3 major protagonists. And he went to each actor and said, what is the moment that defined your character's life? And so they workshopped ideas. And so the first 3 chapters are Mary Stuart, the guy...
Masterton.
Masterton is Mary Stuart? No, it's... The woman, the lead guy, and Michael Hyde.
Space Camp.
Michael Biehn plays Coffee, the Marine.
Yeah.
Ed Harris plays.
Ed Harris.
Yeah, and each one of them have a moment that define who they are.
Yes.
And those are the first 3 chapters. It's a really good book. But
Cool.
only because, and then again, Cameron being Cameron, because the novelisation came out very late.
Yes.
Cameron said, I don't give a shit, I want this book to be right.
Yeah.
It's a very good book.
Cool.
Whether do you think of the movie?
I liked the movie.
Yeah, I like the movie too.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If you like it or not, the book
Yeah,
is
I see what you're saying.
But again, that's the thing with the Hollywood novelizations is that's the problem.
Yeah.
That's which is why there's always scenes in the book that don't exist in the movie because they existed in the draft.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yes.
So we're coming back to Alien, and then so Kane in the next scene, he actually comes too, and he seems fit as a fiddle.
Yeah,
Everything
he's
seems
totally fine.
He's joking.
Yep. They realise they're going to be.
He farts.
They're going to go back to sleep, which means they're going to miss the original deadline date.
Yes.
Later revealed that Sigourney Weaver's character has a daughter.
Yeah.
And she's going to miss her 12th birthday, which is something that's revealed in the director's cut of Aliens.
Yes.
But they were quite happy because he seems fine and he's hungry. So they're going to eat before they go to sleep. Which you'd think, if you're going to be in hypersleep for years, you'd want an empty stomach, wouldn't you?
Yeah, what happens to that? How do you... Are you actually frozen?
Well, it's hibernation, so your body functions stop.
Yeah.
So bears do it, but bears do eat a lot of food.
Fleas do it as well, and even educated fleas do it. I'm so sorry. I'm in such a strange mood. Totally threw you off track. You were talking about
bears do gather food, don't they, before they hibernate? Or squirrels do. I don't know.
Squirrels
but
having
said that, I think they do wake up and eat, and then eat nuts, and then go back to sleep again.
Yeah. Well, that's right. You're right. They do in the form of hibernation. You're right.
So if you put people on suspended animation, surely you don't want to. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just think food in your stomach for years on end. No,
but isn't that whole kind of myth of sleeping? No, not sleeping. I was about to say sleeping. Swimming on a full stomach, which is actually bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Same kind of thing. No,
I don't know.
Making it up.
Anyway, so they're eating food.
And then we get the infamous chest burster scene that comes up. So, interestingly, I've read stuff about this, and you might know a bit more around this, but from what I read, the only people that were privy to what was about to happen, in particular to Kane, was John Hurt and Ridley Scott.
Yes. Well, there's a tricky thing. They all come out and said, we didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm going into further detail, because you look at it, and if you've got any familiarity with filmmaking, how the fuck could you not know something was going to happen?
Because if he's got the stuff rigged in,
big rig.
Yeah.
So they rehearsed it to when he collapses.
Yeah.
Then they say, cut.
Yeah.
Leave the room, come back, and we'll pick it up when he collapses. And they must have read in the script, because it was kind of being written on the fly a little bit.
Okay.
But they must have written that something happened. So my guess is they knew something was going to happen physically to Lisa's body, but they weren't prepared to how visceral it was going to be.
Yeah.
And they weren't quite sure exactly how the effect was going to be done. Was it going to be kind of done in a cheap way, expensive way, or kind of more of a sci-fi way, like half transported? I don't know. But I think they weren't prepared for the amount of blood that exploded on them. That was the shock that they got.
Yeah.
And so, they had to go away for quite a while, because they built him into the table. And they come back, and that was it. Yeah, how many cameras? 3, 4 cameras. Run, action, go. And then the first blood splats, and they go, oh, and that's genuine kind of startle. And then when it just goes blah, they didn't know what it looked like.
And most of it went over Veronica Cartwright.
Yeah, and that's her going, what the fuck?
Yeah,
and they didn't know what it looked like. That was the other big thing.
Yes,
when it comes out. And goes,
yeah, and there's a point where the Yaphet Koda grabs a fork or something. In a stance to kind of attack whatever is coming.
Yeah.
And apparently that was ad-libbed as well, improvised. Cool. So it was like a natural reaction.
Which is great. Love it. That's filmmaking at its best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So all this kind of stuff happens to the reaction. So what actually does happen? So we have John Hurt kind of pinned to a table. He's kind of convulsing a bit. They're trying to, I think Parker sticks a spoon for him to bite down to, and they're trying to pin him down. And essentially, we get a chest burst. Action scene, so kind of it was alluded to earlier with the space jockey character, and we have a penis come out of him.
Yeah, penis with teeth.
Yeah,
go, so fucked up.
So we've had the vagina chest face hugger, and now we get the penis.
Alien.
But yeah, look, it's I mean, it's an animatronic thing that kind of comes up, and and then it kind of scurries off.
And clearly it's on rails.
It's on rails,
When it comes off, yeah. Which is again an interesting thing that E.T. There's a moment in E.T. at the beginning when they're trying to chase after him.
Yes.
And you see his heart light run through the bushes.
Yeah.
And it's a heart light on rails.
Yes.
Which bugs Steven Spielberg. When he did the George Lucas thing of redoing E.T.
Yeah.
And CGI that, the actual light bounces like the way E.T.
That's
runs.
right. Yeah.
And it ruined the shot for me.
Yeah, same.
Because there's something that's quite alien about something that moves that quickly and that smooth that you're running through the forest. It just makes it otherworldly.
Yeah. I know. I agree. Sometimes you just got to leave things be.
Usually I'm like, I don't care. It's your film, do what you like. But that was like, that fucked up that shot. And it's such a good shot.
So they've had this kind of big moment, the crew, and they end up jettisoning Kane's body out into space.
They finally figured out what the fuck that thing was doing on his face.
Yes.
Which is one of the few plot holes.
Yeah, go on.
Because in the scanner would have picked that up. If it's a scientific scanner. Or they would have seen something. And in the novelisation, Ripley does see something.
Oh, right.
And she goes, what is that dot? And then he says, and then Ash says, it's just some glitch on the scanner.
Right.
Again, being the authority on science, that's his word for it.
Yeah,
but it's one of those things where it's like, you think a computer would have beeped and farted and go, hey, there's something being buried in his body?
Yeah.
Anyway.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Think.
So, anyway.
So they're all in a bit of a shock around that, obviously. So they then attempt to hunt down this kind of xenomorph.
Yes. And again, they came up with these two devices, one a flamethrower.
Yes.
To a motion tracker. Stuff I thought was original for Aliens, he was just copying Ripley's stuff. So, brilliant. Yeah.
Love it. I put Jones again. We see Jones for a bit. Jonesy.
I remember Jonesy cutaway.
Come on.
Okay.
And then...
That's what they're going to put inside his carrier.
Yeah.
I think they were going to put inside Jonesy's carrier.
Yeah, it's because they're looking for it. They got the motion sensors thing, and Jones is hiding behind one of the crates.
That's right, Jones.
So, and it's when Parker points out that they have to kind of get it into the carrier.
It's a cat, man. You have to catch it again, you fucker.
Yeah. So that task falls on Harry Dean Stanton, who's Brett.
Goes in this massive warehouse. Yeah. And it's a giant. It's a factory in real life. Ceiling goes on forever.
Yeah.
And there's just again chains and water. Why is there fucking dripping water in a spaceship and chains that are swinging freely? Again, it looks so fucking cool.
It's enough for him to have a little drink from it.
Yeah, he does. He drinks it, which I don't think that's very sad.
No.
But it looks cool. It looks so cool.
It does look good.
Yeah.
So he's on looking for Jonesy. This is where you find some shredded skin on the floor.
Yes.
And which makes us go, okay, that can only be the thing.
Yeah.
And if it's shredded, what the fuck's it turned into?
Yep.
Don't you think when the reveal happens that it grew very quick?
It grew exceptionally quick because universal laws being what they are, it needs to consume fuel to grow.
Yeah.
How did it grow that big without eating something?
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah.
Again, there was a bit something that I
it did grow extraordinary. It's the size of a man, bigger than a man.
It's huge. Even Parker says the thing was fucking huge.
It's fucking huge. And there's a bit where Brett sees the cat.
Yes.
And the cat sees the creature over his
shoulder.
It's great. And the cat goes.
Yeah.
Apparently they got a Doberman or German Shepherd to poke it from behind the camera. And the cat went, "Fuck you." Cut print.
Nice.
There you go.
It's a really great moment because it's the whole it's behind.
Yeah.
But it's done so well.
And Brett's down.
You gotta have a hats off to Harry Dean Stanton for his character in that. I thought he played it really well.
Yeah, he did.
And then we basically see that's where we first see the whole kind of mouth come out of the mouth.
Yes, mouth and mouth. Again, H. Geiger. What an amazing.
Which to me, thanks to Red Dwarf, I will always think of Polymorph whenever that happens. So kind of destroys the illusion of what came before it. But again, another case in point of how many things have been influenced by this film.
Completely. The cat thing it's been brought up in comedies.
Yeah. So we lose another crew member.
Two down.
5 to down. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so then Dallas goes to ask Mother whether they should terminate the alien, and it says does not compute. Computer says no.
He says no.
And then we have the airlock scene to flush it out.
So they figure they're going to flush it out through air vents, which can be enough or big enough for people to crawl through.
Yes.
And Dallas is one of the volunteers to go in the air vents, and they try and track it with the motion trackers on the other side.
Yeah.
And the theory is he goes from each event to event, he locks them off, shepherding it towards the airlock.
Yeah.
Right out in space. What could go wrong?
Well, nothing was going to go wrong. So, like, and then, so do you find it interesting that he's the one that volunteers to go down there?
Well, I assume he
Or do
did
you
the
think
captain thing of
as
like...
a leader,
yeah,
you should
it's
be
like,
doing
don't
it.
ask anyone to do what you're not willing to do yourself.
Yeah.
In hindsight, probably not a good idea to risk your captain. But again, they still don't know what his capabilities are, even though they've just realised it's the size of a man.
Yeah.
And obviously not very friendly.
No.
Yeah, it's a... yeah.
So go on.
If they had more crew members, I would have put 2 members down. But again, they're not built for this. They're truckers.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. So, so then we get the scene where they go down. We get the whole kind of, they're closing off the vents as he's working his way through, as you said, the idea being the shepherd, and they've got the tracking beacon thing going on, which Cartwright is observing.
Yes, Lambert.
I keep calling him Cartwright. So Lambert's observing that, and we can see, and it's great suspense, tension building. You can kind of see that she can pick it up. It's getting closer to him, but then it kind of disappears, and she goes, "I don't know where it is. Can't find it. You need to get out of there because he's somewhere near."
It's not designed to read 3D.
No.
And so she tells him to make a choice. He makes a choice. He goes down.
He goes down, and then we get jazz hands.
Yes, jazz hands. And he's
where there's Xenomorph there waiting for him. And he's gone. And that was quite a big moment, really. Like, this is the moment where you go, all right, hold on, if they've got rid of him,
who's the leader?
Who the fuck?
Yeah.
Who the fuck's? And this is, to me, the best decision made in the script.
Oh, okay.
Because it allows Ripley to rise.
Yeah.
And become the character that she is. Meant to be.
Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't think about that because I saw the second film first.
Yeah.
I just assumed, okay.
Well, there's a turning point for her in that film too, which we'll get to when we talk about Aliens. But yeah, for this one, it's a great moment because after that, following that, they're sitting down, they're talking, and we've got Lambert's freaking out, and Ripley's the one that tries to maintain control.
Yes.
And she then, up to this point, she hasn't had to take on the leadership responsibility.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
she has to at this point. And her choice at this point is to continue with Dallas's plan.
Yeah. Well, Lambert says, she's gone. So she's like, let's take the shuttle. There's one space shuttle. And then Ripley points out it won't take 4.
No.
There's also in the scene, because it's a 3/4 profile on Ripley close up, and she's got this huge bruise on her right cheek.
Yeah.
And it's never explained. Because I thought maybe it was a cut scene before that.
Was it rough sex with Dallas?
Probably what it was. But not once I've ever seen him explain what the hell it was. I don't even say that she bumped herself. I know she did bump herself at some point during a later scene. That might have been it. Where she actually hurt herself really badly.
It wasn't from the punch from Lambert.
No, it was during when she was running away from Ash, which is shot out of order.
No, sorry, I'm just saying to go when Lambert landed a punch on her. Would it be from
Lambert hit her from the right hand, so it landed on her left cheek. It's on her right cheek.
Okay.
But anyway, it's weird. I mean, it's one of the things where I can't take my eye off it. It's kind of
you're right. I do remember that as well. Seeing that, interesting.
Then go on. That was next.
Oh yeah, so they basically kind of decide to carry out Dallas's plan to try and still flush it out. Is the idea? Ripley tries to contact Mother.
That's right.
Herself, because now she's the leader. And then she comes across something that says "Science Officer Eyes Only," and in it says to retrieve the specimen, crew expendable. Yeah. And then creepy Ash
just suddenly appears out of nowhere
in the room with her.
Considering the door opens with the biggest. she didn't hear that. How the fuck did he hear that?
Comes around like pokes his head around like this.
Yeah, he goes, hello.
All right, let's go. And then we get this bit where Ash flips out and loses it and tries to keep Ripley imprisoned. But just as he's doing that, there's a really cool shot. It's a close-up shot of Ian Holm, who plays Ash, and he's tensing up, and we have a small droplet of white.
Yes.
That goes down his temple, which is a bit odd. And at first you think, has he been attacked?
Yeah. Well, like she hit him.
Yeah.
And then the sound design gets really weird at this point. There's like this weird. Wah!
Yeah.
It's kind of it's like a mistake, which they kept in the film. And then she tries to escape. He keeps on cutting off her escape by closing the doors.
Closing doors, yeah.
And
he gets quite physical with her too, and he's being quite robotic in his movements, and very stiff. And you wonder how strong he is, because he literally at one point picks her up and throws her across the room. And he then tries to kill her by shoving a rolled up piece of magazine down her throat.
Which is an odd way to kill somebody.
Yeah. And at which point then Parker and Lambert come in and they're trying to force him off, and even they physically can't budge him against the going, what is this guy made of?
Yeah. And you soon find out.
When Parker knocks his block off
with the fire extinguisher,
revealing that he's a robot.
Yeah. So
is he described as a robot here?
They call him a robot.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's an interesting. So I read a review on this, how phallic it was that he put the magazine down his throat, and I read somewhere that he rolled up the magazine near his crotch. That doesn't happen. He rolls up the magazine near his chin. Yeah. And then he jams it down. The fact that he jammed it down the throat is phallic.
Yes.
The whole thing is. Again, I saw Aliens first, so
yes.
This is when it happened. I'm like, this is where robophobia.
Yeah.
And also, they mentioned in Aliens that there was a robot that had a malfunction, so I knew that one of them was a robot.
Damn, so how did that affect you?
I knew it was. I had read about the magazine thing before, and so I was looking at that.
Okay.
And I was like, this is not phallic in terms of he doesn't roll up near his crotch.
Yeah.
But it is a weird way to kill someone.
It is a bit of an odd. Yeah, it is an odd.
So I knew that was all coming. My first thing was the edit was really odd. That really odd sound effect.
Yeah.
She pushes him away, and it just looks like a mistake, and I haven't rectified it. The other one is when Parker knocks his head off, and there's white. The white spoof just goes everywhere.
Yeah.
Again, it's a fantastic design. Like robots up to that point were metal.
Yes.
In science fiction, science fiction, and the fact that you make them a synthetic organic, they're effectively flesh, but it's white, milky, and that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Like a brilliant design concept.
Absolutely.
And genius. The other big thing is the really bad jump cut from his head when they put his head on the table to when he starts talking.
Yeah. Where he looks nothing like Ian Holm, and then when suddenly
he just snaps into Ian Holm. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things where, okay, if you're going to spend money to fix a shot, that probably wouldn't be it. But it is part of its charm that it's such a student film edit.
Yeah.
That was the thing. But it's white icing and milk.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah. It's great. It's a great little bit of special effects that's used in order to do that. There's a point here where Ash starts talking about the creature, the xenomorph, and Lambert says, "You admire it, don't you?" And he says, "It's the perfect animal."
Yeah.
So it's interesting when you're looking at that because now that we know he's a robot and he finds it fascinating, that a creature's fascinating because it's not anything they've encountered before. And if he is a science officer too, first and foremost, then that would be triggering a lot of things for him to respond to. And there's a lot around this creature that's fascinating. Well, again,
too, science fiction at this point with Star Wars and Star Trek, alien races are a thing. It was one of the first of the franchises that pointed out that there are no alien races. That's why it's so special. It's the first alien life form they've encountered.
Yes.
Outside of bugs, apparently, according to Hicks and Aliens, is this a bug hunt?
Yeah.
So you kind of get the impression they've encountered wildlife.
Yeah.
In the Aliens universe, but not a sentient, conscious creature, which this thing clearly is.
Yeah.
So all very good. So at this point, the three left go, well, hey, that 3-man rule doesn't apply anymore. Or the 4-man rule. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, let's get in the shop. Let's just blow the ship up and get out of here.
Yeah.
They burn Ash's remains, I've put in here, though.
Parker nukes him because he says something. Because he says something to Sigourney Weaver and has a stupid grin on his face.
All right.
And then just as they leave, Parker just turns around and goes, fuck it, and nukes him.
Yeah, nice.
Probably shouldn't have a fire on a spaceship.
Just saying. Lambert and Parker then go and get provisions. I got a bit confused about this. Why are they? What does it need to do?
These are bottles that make them sleep. There's full sleeping agents. It's designed for one. It can take 3, can't take 4, but they need extra sleeping agents.
Okay, got you. That makes sense now. Okay, and so then Ripley goes to get the cat.
Yeah, that's right. Go back to get the cat.
While they do that. So Lambert and Parker then encounter the xenomorph, and Parker tries to physically attack it. Because he's very much about brute strength, and we see that, and that's why I particularly mentioned his reaction with the fork.
Right.
His natural reaction is physical.
Yeah, right.
So that's why it makes more sense when he then tries to attack it. But
There's
in
also
doing
a shot of the tail going between Lambert's legs, which is very phallic. That's actually Harry Dean Stanton's legs. That shot was taken from his murder.
Oh, right.
But they didn't use it, and they recycled it for her. So that's his feet. So the shoes don't match up.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. So in doing so, though, when Parker tries to take on the xenomorph, he's killed.
Weirdly, that's weird.
Happens. Yeah, and then Cartwright freezes. Oh, Cartwright. Say that again. And then Lambert freezes, and in doing so, she gets killed.
Yes.
So what does that say? Action does nothing. You're going to get killed if you try and act against this thing. But if you do nothing, you're going to get killed.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Oh, well, it's acting out of instinct. I mean, it's finding. I mean, as you find it up, it's looking for people that needs it to incubate. So you're fucked regardless. I love the sound design in that is that because Sigourney Weaver can hear them dying over the intercom as she's running.
Yes.
And Lambert, when she dies, goes. it's really kind of an odd. It's pure terror.
Yeah.
It is. But that was the thing that stuck with me because it didn't sound good. As like, what's it doing to her? But yeah. So she
clearly put its tail between her legs.
yeah. So she's got the cat. Does she set the self-destruct at this point, doesn't she?
Hold on, wait. So she has to encounter. She encounters their.
She sees the bodies. That's right,
and then doubles back and has to stop the. So yeah, she goes sets with detonation. You're right. That was earlier. I missed that. She does that before. Does she do that before? Anyway, so she sets up the detonation
of the ship.
But then she then has to double back because she encounters the xenomorph herself in the corridor. But she managed
outside the airlock.
Outside the airlock
so she has to switch it off.
Yeah, so she has to try and go back and switch it off. But she does so, but misses the cutoff point. Yeah. So the ship's going to just blow up anyway. So
she actually made it by 3 seconds, but by that point it's a bit like,
yeah.
She calls Mother a bitch.
She does. She says you're a bitch.
I like how the self-destruct thing was like opening up with level instructions and reading point step 1, step 2, step 3.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
Nice.
So now she has no choice but to get back to the ship.
Exactly, yeah. And but when she goes back, strangely the coast appears clear.
Yes.
And she manages to pilot the shuttle to safety.
Ejects out.
And as she does so, Nostromo explodes. So she's safe. Everything's good. And then she puts Jones into stasis.
Yes, this is the big thing. She took it out of the carrier, puts it in the stasis pod, and closes the stasis pod.
Yeah.
Which she hadn't done that. Jonesy would be fucked.
Yeah.
Because as she goes and opens up, takes off her clothes. Sigourney Weaver's panties. Yes. Which is one of the most talked about, like, for guys.
Yeah.
It's a good shot.
I'm smiling because that's one thing I really do remember watching when I first watched it. Is
your body was like going, "This is your future."
Yeah.
Dawn DNA are going, "What's that?"
Yeah, I was like, "Oh, hello."
People have tried to replicate because they can't find them anywhere because it's one of those things where some designer got it from some cheap op shop, but that actual
the singlet kind of.
The actual panties. The cut doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I've read extensively on this topic.
And something you need to tell me.
But then
you're wearing them now, aren't you? The only pair in existence.
Hanging in there. So she goes to the closet to find something to go to sleep in. And again, there's a lot of instruction reading. She finds these like clothes and she reads the instructions on them.
Yeah, they're in a packet, aren't they?
Like a vacuum pack.
Yeah. And she's basically kind of getting ready to go into the stasis herself. At which point, this is when she discovers the xenomorph is on board with her, and this is a great shot because when you first watch it, it blends in.
It blends in seamlessly.
When you watch it again, you can clearly see because it's got the quite infamous design of the dome of its head lying across there, and it does this whole kind of the hand kind of jumps out to kind of grab. Well, does it grab?
No, it just reaches out.
Kind of
just flexing its muscles.
And then it farts.
And she just and farts. So wake up! What are we doing now?
Yeah. Where was I?
So it's the and it's just like I don't think this is the first film, but it's one of those films where again Aliens did it well, where the movie's over. No, it's not.
No, yeah, that's right.
And again, something else he ripped off from fucking. The movie's over. No, it's not.
No, it's not. That's right. And so she goes and hides in the closet here. At which point she climbs into the Astro suit, and this was the bit that perv factor is the bit that I was...
Yeah, when she steps in.
Yeah.
But then the thing that got me, because I've been perving on the panties a bit before this, sorry guys, was that the spacesuit is made up of zippers. She zips up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not vacuum proof. Whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she does get into this Astro suit. She grabs some kind of harpoon.
Yes, it's a harpoon gun.
Yeah. And then straps herself down before opening up the airlock and ejecting the creature outside.
She sings My Lucky Lucky Star. And
is that what she's singing?
She's singing My Lucky Day, because that was the one they could get rights to. She was going to sing something else.
Okay. Is that something that you think she would have sung to her daughter as a kind of?
Yeah, that's a good way.
There's something in there that's childlike, and
it is. Yeah,
and we do in our out of fear resort to our child selves.
Yeah.
But it's a great bit where she turns her back on the creature before she hits the eject, and then is trying to look round the helmet at it.
Yeah, which is an iconic shot.
Yeah,
but then it's like. She knew it's there. Just press the button. But she does this thing where she looks at it before pressing the button.
Yeah.
I'm like, don't give it a second thought. It's probably sitting there going, he's probably thinking, why aren't you pressing the button? And so she does. And he gets zapped out. He grabs
hold of, And this is where the harpoon gun comes in handy.
Yeah. Where she shoots him out, but also, because it's a harpoon gun, tethers him to the ship.
Yeah.
So which is great. It's just like, okay, well, we'll steal one. And so, and then it slams down on the harpoon gun.
Yes.
It's stuck outside.
Yeah.
Fucker starts climbing into the jet engines.
Which I really like because, again, the reason I like this is it's like cockroaches and things like that. They find some kind of crevice to duck away into, and you're just like, oh, you've got to get rid of the thing. Yeah. And of course she does.
Well, we've seen Life is... Yeah. The alien Life is just a fucker.
Yeah.
If there's any half a millimetre to get through something, it'll find a way.
Yeah, wow.
And that's why it's so fucking deadly. Like it's just, it is one of those, it's herpes. Once you get it, you can't get rid of it. It just finds a way.
Right. Nice analogy, thanks. But she does manage to get rid of this by
hitting the rockets.
Hitting the rockets, and it either incinerates or gets blasted into space. We never really know.
It's enough to fire.
Yeah.
But again, there's a point that Jonesy was... Because if she had left Jonesy out and about, he would be sucked out.
Yeah. Gone. So we kind of conclude the film where she signs off and then goes into stasis herself. And that's when we close the credits.
Yes. Good film.
And we bow out at that point.
Yeah, wow.
So it definitely stands up as a fucking awesome film.
It's going to be...
1979.
1, 2, 3, 40 years old in 2 years' time.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
It's still holding up.
Yeah.
Like in 1979, then a movie made in 1939 would have still had them hold up. No way.
No way. That's it.
That's insane.
It's interesting, isn't it?
It's a haunted house movie. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's just all a combination of things that came together at the last second.
Yeah.
The character names were all meant to be generic surnames because they didn't know if they're going to be male or female. They didn't know who was going to win.
No.
Because she was very inexperienced when she took it, but she did it well.
Sigourney?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
24, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was young. I didn't realise that. I didn't realise that until I started thinking about her journey through the Alien franchise and realising that she doesn't seem to age.
Yeah, she holds. She still does.
And so I was like, oh, so how old? What? And then when I rewatched Alien, I could see, sheshe looks young in this, and I guess that's because I'm used to seeing her as she is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
It was her first film. She had to be told by Ridley Scott to stop looking with the camera.
Really?
That's how inexperienced she was. And like most people in the first film, thought she was going to get fired because she's so terrible. But it worked. It completely worked. She was a contemporary of Meryl Streep's too, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, they both went to the same school.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. Awesome stuff. So obviously, just going to make up some shit for a minute because I'm now looking at her filmography, which I'll edit out here. She crops up in Avatar as well, of course.
Yeah.
James Cameron reunited towards the end, and for me, she was Dana Barrett.
Dana Barrett was the first thing I saw in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, so like people were. I grew up when my cousins and my brothers were the Star Wars generation when that came out and the impact that it had, and so I kind of was following that trend a little bit. But for me, Ghostbusters was me. Yeah, that was the thing I owned. That was my film. I went to the cinema to see it when I was probably too young to go and see it.
Yeah.
I did a Ghostbusters theme party on my birthday, and got it out on VHS. Yeah. Two of my friends didn't watch it because they found it too scary. And I was just sitting there going, yeah, love it. Love it. So that was kind of, so that, to me, she was from that. So I'm just kind of taking a look at her. Yeah, you're right. So she cropped up in a couple of films as bit parts before it. Somerset TV series, Annie Hall, she plays Alvy's date outside theatre. And then TV miniseries, The Best of Families, a film called Madman, before then getting Alien
Yeah, right.
Ripley. So it's a little bits and pieces along the way. Her obviously Ghostbusters followed that, and then Aliens comes into effect. Gorillas in the Mist and Working Girl, both awesome films.
Some 80s films.
So there's and Death and the Maiden. I've got to mention that one too. That's a really good film where they're in, and Copycat.
Oh yes,
It's an
that's
awesome
right.
film.
Yeah.
I won't go into too much detail.
You know who
the rest of
Sigourney
that stuff.
Weaver is? She's a
Yeah.
screen legend.
But I was just more interested in seeing, like you said, her, where in the film canon of her, this came in her career, and early on, and so very bold choice to have that. I guess that's kind of like has followed suit though. Like when you look at horror films, it's a relative unknown that's cast as the hero
or heroine.
or heroine.
Yeah, Jamie Lee Curtis and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of a interesting point, and it's in of itself. God, I can't talk. In of itself. So, and now let's switch focus to like Ridley Scott, because we were also mentioning that the head of the film of the podcast. Obviously, he's gone on to do, like we've mentioned, Blade Runner and things in there, like Gladiator. He got accolades for along the way. But as far as his directing is concerned, there was one film before it, The Duelists.
Right, yeah.
Before he then went on to do Alien, and then Blade Runner was his next
He's
film.
good one. He's an interesting beast.
No, Blade Runner. I was right.
Yes. When's that coming out? Blade Runner.
Oh, it's this year.
Oh, cool.
Next year,
Sick.
2018.
He's a fascinating person. Ridley
Yeah.
Scott, a production designer, become a filmmaker, and his films are usually designed like sumptuously. They're just really good films.
Yeah.
But I just find him fascinating because he's really hit and miss for me.
With his movies.
Yeah. When he hits, he really fucking hits. Though.
I think Hannibal was an example of a big miss.
Yeah,
like it just really didn't.
And Prometheus.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a fan of that film. But yeah, when he gets it right, oh my god, he makes like films of the decade.
Yeah.
Also, I keep forgetting he's related to Tony Scott.
Yeah, that's right.
I completely forget that. Like Top Gun is
not with us anymore.
no, like Tony Scott. But like Top Gun is probably you could make a case to say that is the '80s film.
Yes.
But there's such different sensibilities as filmmakers, different lenses in terms of the way they see the world. Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah, I see Tony Scott behind The Hunger, which had a very kind of unique style
That's true. Yeah,
to it as well, with them visually speaking.
But
and they collaborated a lot with producing stuff with the Scott-free productions, and things like that. So it's interesting. So but visually, like there's still stuff in this movie that's
the way this film came together. Because everyone makes the assumption: film, what's the script? Get the script done.
Yeah.
Go in pre-production, make the film. A lot of films to this day aren't done that way. They're done with the words are written simultaneously for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
Some of them are ridiculous. Others are like, oh, okay, I get it. But usually you'd say that's a recipe for disaster. And a lot of bad films are made that way. But occasionally, like Blade Runner is made that way, and it's a brilliant film.
Yeah.
This film seems to have been done that way, where they asked the production designer, how the hell do we get around this corner of why don't they shoot the fucking alien?
Yeah.
Ron Cobb, somebody who lives in Sydney, Australia. We live in Sydney, Australia. American, world-famous satirist, artist, and got into production design, designed films, particularly science fiction films. That was his thing. Because he's of a designer. If you ask him to design my film, he is one of those lovely people that ask you questions back, saying, well, what do you see? How do you see it working?
Yes.
Because apparently his big thing is make a spaceship. He'll say, how does it work?
Yeah.
And then I'll design it. And so he gets into the science of it all. And then he actually gets into how it'll physically work on camera. He's a wonderful person to work with if you're a filmmaker. And so, he does some Star Wars to... Last Starfighter was the one he loved.
Okay.
Because I met him at a party once, and he looks like Santa Claus. And then we were talking about films. Alien came up. And he kept on throwing in his comments, going, I worked on that. Yeah, I came up with that. And to the point where, like, this guy's crazy. Like, he honestly thinks he worked on these films. He thinks he made... And then my friend who was running the place said, no, he's telling the truth. He came up with the acid for blood thing. And he's just, you came up with that. Yeah. So to me, it made sense. If you're going to shoot it, still stop it from shooting, you make it so if it bleeds everywhere, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Didn't care. It was so not a thing. He wanted to talk about The Last Starfighter the entire night.
Wow.
That was the film that he really got into because it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
And he really loved that film. But Star Wars, I designed the fucking whatever. Yeah, no, but let's talk about Last Starfighter. No, let's talk about Alien. So that was him. He was the one that said, if it bleeds.
Wow, there you go.
And then, he's a fascinating guy. But again, it was the designer that came up with the idea, and they wrote, and it's a cornerstone of the film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a genius device, and it's been used. It's the big thing about that thing when you can counter it.
Yeah.
In every other film, you can't shoot the fucking thing.
No.
Things like that. And apparently they didn't decide to make Ripley the survivor until halfway through.
Yeah.
They didn't know if he was a guy or a girl. It's a film that just seems to be making shit up along, but it just feels lived in. It feels natural.
It does. There's so many. I mean, it feels organic, and it kind of, that's why it lends itself with the creatures kind of blend into this kind of environment that's been created. There's so much thought that's gone into this, and again, it's beautifully shot.
Geiger's design. Geiger's design for the aliens.
Yeah.
His mind is wonderfully twisted.
Yeah.
Because before that he was doing Dune and didn't come about.
Yes.
And then he did this, and he did the Species, which is the Species is because if you look at his original designs, they're much more female-centric and phallic-centric than the Alien was.
Yeah.
The Species was that exploration of that.
Yeah.
And Species as a film isn't bad. It's like all it is. It isn't bad. The second,
it's not brilliant, but you're right. Yeah.
So, it's just, and it's slow, and you don't mind it. It's one of the few times when slow is working for it.
Yeah.
And like I said, Aliens, I thought was such an original film, but it ripped off so many devices. It's still a great film, don't get me wrong. Because it did the smart thing, and we'll talk about this later, about how sequels work.
Yes.
Is when you don't disrespect the original film, but build on it in a way that feels natural.
Yep.
Very hard to do.
Yes.
And I always cite Alien and Aliens as the perfect example of how you do it right. Because Alien is a haunted house. Aliens is a war film.
Yes.
And they're definitely in the same universe. They respect each other's rules.
Absolutely.
But they're individually their own film, and they're both very good at what they do.
Yes, agreed.
I think, Aliens is the film that really got me into filmmaking.
Yeah, right.
More than anything else. Star Wars is my Earth film.
Yes.
But it was the one that made me, I was 16 when I saw it, that better thing in my career, and I want to be a filmmaker. Based on that experience.
Yeah, wow, there you go.
Alien fed into that,
Awesomeness. So I think that's we're on a good point there to kind of bow out for our discussions on Alien. Unless there's anything else you'd like to add to this particular movie?
Let's talk about Alien vs. Predator. No, that's not. That's it. That's the other film the universe shares itself with, Predator.
Yeah, that's right.
And Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly. So, so look, that concludes our discussions on Alien.
Great film.
Alien franchise. Yeah, I'm surprised there'll be people out there who haven't seen it, but you might not have, and if you haven't,
just remind yourself, do yourself a favour.
Even if you have seen it, watch it again.
Even with the mistakes in it, there are a couple.
There are a few.
It just,
pretty awesome. All right, well, we'll sign off there. Thanks for tuning in and listening to us. Once again, I am the lead surgeon for Surgeons of Horror podcast, Paul Farrell.
The Badger.
And once again, thank you, Anthony Yee, for joining us.
The Big Cheese.
Until then, keep on listening.
Check out.
Goodbye.
You're listening to the Surgeons of Horror podcast. Music supplied by Peter Nizik. For more discussions or podcasts, head over to surgeonsofhorror.com or head over to our Facebook and Twitter sites for the latest news and updates.